Before I even get started, I gotta say, I was thinking about getting a green screen or something to put behind me to make everything look a little less cluttered, but I actually really like the fact that you see my insane living room kind of situation, the kids' toys everywhere. I don't know, it's fun for me. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Even if anyone had elected Elon Musk to anything, literally anything, the past week or two would still constitute one of the most egregious examples of executive malfeasance in American history. Musk has seized almost total control of the levers of power and authority within the federal government, and it's apparently enabled him to destroy entire agencies with no check whatsoever, with not so much as a peep from Congress. Elon Musk's team, which includes a gaggle of young aides, basically a bunch of Zoomers, have taken control of the Office of Personnel Management and the General Services Administration. They also have direct access to the Treasury Department's payment system, which provides a direct line to sensitive information about tens of millions of Americans, including Social Security numbers and bank accounts. By his own account, Musk could use his access to the payment system, which disperses congressional appropriations to the government's many payees, to effect a kind of personal line item veto. If he doesn't believe a program should exist, if he thinks it constitutes waste, fraud, and abuse, then for Elon, he can just delete it entirely, and that's the end of it. That's the game. The first casualty of Elon's assertion of unilateral executive power is the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. It has become the subject of insane conspiracy theories about how it controls all of politics, because many of these people, Elon included, do not seem to believe that anyone could legitimately oppose them or their aims. And if there is opposition, it must have been seeded by a shadowy government agency. Musk has called USAID a radical left political psyop, a criminal organization, and a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. He has bragged that he has fed USAID into the wood chipper. I should say that there might be one reason why Musk in particular is very angry about USAID. The agency some decades ago played an integral part in helping Black South Africans reclaim their country following apartheid. So, I don't know, Apartheid Clyde might be a little angry about that. Anyway, Musk wants to cut these agencies, or he says he wants to cut these agencies to control inflation. According to Musk, cutting this wasteful government spending is the only way to get inflation under control. He believes that high prices in the grocery store is because the government spends too much on foreign aid. Does this make any sense? Not at all, but there is Elon Musk for you. Now, even if Musk had been elected to office, this would still be one of the worst abuses of power in American history. That is unquestionable. No one in the executive branch has the legal authority to unilaterally cancel congressional appropriations. No one has the legal authority to turn the Treasury payment system into a means of political retribution. No one has the authority to summarily dismiss civil servants without cause. No one has the authority to take down and scrub Americans' data unilaterally. And no private citizen has the authority to access some of the most sensitive data the government collects on private citizens for their own unknown and probably nefarious purposes. The thing, of course, is that Musk isn't elected. He's just a private citizen. He's just a guy. Functionally, he was not confirmed for a cabinet job. He didn't go through some high-level vetting process. He kind of just showed up on the president's invitation. Musk says he is acting on the authority of the president of the United States, although Trump does not really say much about what authority he gave Musk, so this is a bit of an open question. But even still, it's not as if the president of the United States has this kind of unaccountable power and unaccountable authority to unilaterally slash programs and agencies and take total control of the executive branch. That's not how the Constitution works, and that's certainly not how the law works. But that is the situation that we are in. A power-mad president possessed of radical theories of executive authority and convinced of his own almost royal prerogative has given de facto control of most of the federal government to the richest man on the planet, or one of the richest men. There may actually be other richer men, but that's a whole separate conversation. This rich man has interests that are not just tangled up with our government, but tangled up with that of foreign governments and rival governments. He is a giant security threat rampaging across the federal government, doing whatever he pleases. And the American people have no particular guarantee that their data is safe in any way. At the most, they have the president's word, and President Trump's word and a couple dollars might buy you a cup of coffee. It certainly wouldn't buy you a carton of eggs. Now, the only institution capable of responding to any of this with anything like alacrity is Congress. But Congress is also led by Republicans, and both the House Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader, Mike Johnson and John Thune, respectively, have essentially abdicated whatever authority they have to the president. They have, in effect, and with full support of other Republicans in Congress, essentially abdicated their power of the purse and their powers of oversight. Their Congress, the one that is supposed to be co-equal with the president, is supine, subordinate, and submissive, just a total tool of the executive's will. Somewhere in hell, probably, King Charles I is very jealous of Donald Trump right now. Read about the English Civil War if you want to understand that joke. To describe the current situation in the executive branch as merely a constitutional crisis is to understate the significance of what we're experiencing. Constitutional crisis does not even begin to capture the radicalism of what is unfolding in the federal bureaucracy and what is happening with Congress's decision to refuse to act. To put this a little differently, together, Trump and Musk are trying to rewrite the rules of the American system. They are trying to unilaterally change the constitutional order. And specifically what they're trying to do is they're trying to instantiate an anti-constitutional theory of executive power that would make the president supreme over all other branches of government. They are doing so in service of a plutocratic agenda of austerity and upward redistribution of wealth. And the longer Congress stands by, the longer Congress refuses to do anything about it, the more all of this is fixed in place, and the more that transformation becomes a settled fact of our political life. If Trump, Musk, and their allies, like Russell Vaught, the newly confirmed head of the Office of Management and Budget, and an advocate for a radical theory of executive power, get their way, then the question of American politics won't be if they'll win the next election or not. The question of American politics will be whether the Constitution is even in effect anymore. So I gotta say, the extent to which we are, the United States, is embroiled in a major political crisis would be obvious and apparent if it were happening in another country. If it were happening in another country, I think the American press would be very clear-eyed about what's going on. Unfortunately, the sheer depth of American exceptionalism is such that this country's political, media, and economic elites have a difficult time believing that anything can fundamentally change for the worse. But things are fundamentally changing for the worse. It's happening. Now, of course, the judicial system is going to weigh in on the situation. As lawsuits are filed, judges will attempt to adjudicate claims of lawful authority and executive power. And thanks to Democratic states attorneys general, there's already been efforts to freeze things in place, to issue injunctions, to begin to try to get a handle on what the executive branch is doing. But the problem with reliance on the judiciary is primarily reactive. It reacts to what's happening. It doesn't drive the ball down the field. And so while the courts are reacting, Trump and Musk are creating facts on the ground. At this point in any argument like this one, the question arises of what should be done, and more critically, what can be done. And the unfortunate answer is, at this point, not that much. Those with the direct institutional power to slam the brakes lack the will, and those with the will lack the power. There are ways that those who lack the power can slow down the process or throw obstacles up, but they can't fundamentally stop things right now. They just don't have that kind of authority. If Trump and Musk's opponents do have a tool, however, it is the power of public opinion, the power to shape what the public thinks, to show the public that what is transpiring in the White House is radical and dangerous to their interests and dangerous to the basic stability of the United States. It is still possible to show the American people that a malign force has hijacked the federal government and is using it for their own interests and not those of the American people. It is somewhat actually to the advantage of their opponents, Trump and Musk opponents, that all of this is happening along with disasters like an airline crash and the ending of critical funding for programs like Head Start. Connecting those things to what's happening in the executive branch could provide a powerful political message for opponents of this Trump-Musk effort to create a kind of American autocracy. I mean, the simple fact here is that although many people who voted for Trump last year wanted something like this, they are entertained by all of this, what you could call the marginal Trump voter, the Trump voter who is just voting because of high prices, may not necessarily want to see Medicare and Social Security on the chopping block. They may not want to see key programs starved of funding because Trump decided he didn't like them. They didn't vote for economic hardship. They didn't vote for Trump to have the power to destroy the capacity of the federal government to do anything to help anyone. And they certainly didn't vote for a world where the president's billionaire ally has direct access to your social security number. Trump may have lied about the influence of the far right on his plans, lied about the extent to which he would be relying on Project 2025, and that lie may have been, I think, assisted by critical parts of the political press. But it is clear that his voters did not anticipate anything other than a return to the status quo before the pandemic. What they're getting instead is a new crisis pushed on by a dangerous set of corrupt oligarchs and monomaniacal ideologues. As dangerous as the president and his allies are, however, their hold on government is not actually as total or complete as they may imagine. The Republican majority in the House is quite narrow, and the Republican majority in the Senate is quite small. The president's opponents have room to maneuver here, but as those opponents strategize their response, it is vital that they understand that there is no going back to the old status quo. Trump and Musk really have altered the structure of things. They've opened up Pandora's box. They've opened a door that will not be closed. They've done something new in American government. And once it's new, once it's been done, there's no forgetting that it happened. There's no pretending like it didn't happen.
I watched it happen. I saw it happen. Don't tell me it didn't happen.
If American constitutional democracy is a game, then Trump and Musk have flipped over the board in an attempt to use the old pieces to make a new game with new rules. And so the president's opponents, whoever they might be, cannot expect a return to the Constitution as it was. That is gone now. Whatever comes next, should the country survive and weather this attempt to hijack its government, will need to be a fundamental rethinking of what this system is and what we want out of it. Anything less will bring us just another Trump and another Musk somewhere down the road.